Hi everyone, welcome to Veru. So today we're looking at Veru, and they just reported some progress in Australia where they're also having an application considered in Australia by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, which is good news because it doesn't actually increase the upside, but it does change the downside, because if you can still be approved by, say, like Australia, at least you're still going to make some money on your product, whereas if you don't get approved in Europe or in the US by the FDA or in the UK, it's still okay if they can still sell some of their product, because we know they are manufacturing their product, so they must have a lot of confidence about it. But at the end of the day, as much as we're looking at that massive upside if they do get approval from one of those three big players, it is still very, very nice that they're also working on the smaller players as well. So if they get approved in a few of the smaller countries, that's also a really, really good kind of boost for the company, because it's going to uphold the current valuation, and if they get more approvals as they go, it also gives the company a good boost in the valuation. It won't be as big as if they get approved in the US, Europe or UK, but predicting your downside is just as important. So even though this announcement that comes out that Australia's considering them and they've got their application expedited, though I still expect it's going to take a bit of time as well to be considered. Yeah, like it's possibly something that's it's a good kind of step in the right direction. Again, it doesn't change the upside, but it does change the downside, and I see it as a good thing. I see, at the end of the day, there's not much a company can do when it comes to helping with these decisions. Basically, they can only just keep applying with more and more countries, and basically if they get one approval, say like even if Australia approves them, it means the countries around it will also approve it as well. So like New Zealand is likely to approve it, the island nations around Australia, and to be fair, like even Asian nations would kind of see it as a really, really good sign, because Australia in that region is kind of seen as kind of like a pretty good standard. If Australia is approving it, then actually Asia in general would be quite persuaded by this kind of approval. But of course, if you get FDA approval, the whole world is yours. If you get UK or European approval, most of the world is yours. And if you get Australian approval, you've got probably a good part of the world that would be convinced by that. So in a way, it is pretty good as well that they've got that going as well. It's probably better. The more applications they've got going, the better, because at the end of the day, it just takes a lot of time to look through that data, consider the results, and make a decision. And the more time, the earlier they start applying for all these different kind of applications, the more time that's going to be considered, and the sooner we have a decision that will be made. So I think this is another good result. This is another good announcement for the company to kind of put out. So far we're still waiting on those three big decisions, and they could come at any time, any day now, because we know with the FDA they still had to audit kind of some of the sites which were outside of the US, and they said it would be done by the end of August. We're reaching near the end of August now, so actually really not that far off now before we possibly might hear from the FDA or the European agency as well. So potentially we could hear from Europe or FDA very, very soon, which is kind of exciting, but also kind of like, oh, fingers crossed that things do turn out right, because I feel like one day I'm going to open up my app or Yahoo or something, and then I'm going to see either just massive green or just massive red, and that's just going to be like the shock of your life. But until then, still waiting game. The share price did do really well, like a week ago really, jumping to $24, and then just slowly dropping it down to like around that $16 mark. It has come back up since to around $18. but it is still pretty good from where they were at in kind of that start of the August period, where they were hovering around that $12 mark, and then they had this massive rise to about $24. And you know, it's really normal for people just to take profit, because if your stock jumps from $12 to $24, that's a good double. That's a good time to be taking some profit. Some of you guys probably don't care. You know, at the end of the day, it's still the long-term hold for that major kind of gain when they do get an approval. For everyone else, you know, some people will consider profit as profit, and it's always good to take some off the table to reduce your risk, especially when it doubles in such a short time frame, and you know that profit taking will happen. But also at the same time, you're also considering, hey, well, the FDA could be making a decision anytime now. Same within Europe as well. So yeah, basically we've got it's a do or die moment. Basically in the next month, we're likely to hear a decision. Like, it could take longer, but given that they're auditing this, they think the audits will be finished at the end of August. It shouldn't take too much longer to make a decision after that. And like Europe, given that it's kind of like an emergency kind of review type of decision, you wouldn't imagine that they would take too long in making that kind of review as well. So I imagine we should see some news from either Europe or the FDA very, very soon, which will be quite anticipated, because who knows, you know, we have been waiting for a good amount of time now, and hopefully that patience does pay off. And you know, at the end of the day, like, it only takes one kind of decision going in their way to work out really, really well. And today's that decision by Australia is also going to be quite positive if it is approved as well, because Australia is seen as still one of the top ones around the world as well. So yeah, like if basically the US, Europe, UK or Australia do put approval through, then potentially we see, you know, they are game changers. Australia, much less than the US, UK and Europe, but still pretty amazing, pretty like fantastic and quite up there when it comes to kind of health standards. So I would see that as a really, really good decision if it was approved in Australia as well. So yeah, it's only really, really good news that the company itself is also making a lot of progress, that it's just not resting on its laurels. It's not just waiting on those decisions. It's constantly applying for more and more applications, and yeah, like the more they apply, eventually we will get a decision. And now we've got a 1 in 4 chance of it going the company's way, and I think, you know, that's pretty good. If they just need that 1 in 4 chance, and everything is pretty good. So I like how the downside is being kept now. That eventually, if the FDA does not come through, the Europe doesn't come through, you know, UK doesn't come through, if Australia does come through, then we're still saved, and the stock price will hold itself pretty well. Yeah, apart from that, we will see what gets reported next time. Hopefully it is a decision, and hopefully it is a positive decision. But until then, yeah, wish you guys good luck in investing, and see you next time.